Here we have the left cerebral hemisphere, which is a side image of what we typically think of as the brain. We're going to talk about the four main lobes, their location, and then we're going to talk about their main functions. So first we have the frontal lobe in the pink. It's easy to remember because it's in the front. Then at the top here in the purple, we have the parietal lobe. And then what separates the two is called the central sulcus, but you don't have to worry about that term too much. It's just a fancy word for a fold in the brain. So it's a line that clearly separates the two lobes. And in the back here in the green, we have the occipital lobe, and it is separated from the parietal lobe by this fancy term called the parieto-occipital sulcus, that line right here. Again, it's just a clear line that separates the two created by a fold. And then at the side here in the yellow, we have the temporal lobe. And then the temporal lobe is separated by the frontal lobe by this lateral sulcus, or just this line on the side here. Alright, so the main functions. First, the frontal lobe, again in the pink. Now this one does a lot. It's responsible for our cognitive functions, all of those higher level thinking activities such as planning, impulse control, social behavior. It's almost like the house of what we think of as our personality. It's also responsible for planning and initiating our voluntary motor movements, so just the movements of the muscles that we have control over. Then the parietal lobe in the purple there. This lobe takes in and processes our sensory information and then puts it together in a way that we can make sense out of. The senses it is in charge of is mainly touch, temperature, pressure, and pain. The occipital lobe in the back in the green there again is in charge of our visual information, such as depth, color, object recognition, and facial recognition. Then the temporal lobe on the side in the yellow, this lobe is in charge of processing our auditory information, so all of the sounds coming in from our ears gets processed here. It is also in charge of our memory.